All right, continuing our propeller-themed class here, because it is props, we are going to move on to props that move, not just in a circle, but the blade angles will change. So remember that I think the easiest way to think about things is toward a feather position. Everybody knows what feather is, correct? That's when the blade's going to go from this way all the way that way into the airstream. That's towards feather, which is also called high pitch or high blade angle. Unfortunately, that is low RPM. That is when you pull the knob outwards. As opposed to being more flat, which we would say is low pitch, low blade angle, high RPM, away from feather. And if we talk about the forces that affect the propeller, we're going to primarily focus in now on centrifugal twisting force, because aerodynamic twisting force is in there, but it has a minor help to us. So centrifugal twisting force acting on a blade all on its own will always drive the blade to flat. I like flat. I like low blade angle, low pitch, high RPM. Sorry, that's the way it is. Unless we have counterweights, which we'll get into. So, all right. So, adjustable props. Adjustable. We'll start with ground adjustable. Ground adjustable props. 2. No, we're not going to do 2 yet. We'll do A. Designed so that a mechanic. Oh, I'm messing this all up. We'll make this one. There we go. Designed so that a mechanic, as opposed to the pilot, can adjust the blade angles, to give a desired performance. That desired performance would be a low blade angle for climb or short takeoff. Or high blade angle for what? Cruise. Yep, put best cruise speed. All right, so these ground adjustable props, they were typically used on older aircraft. I have a feeling a lot of that had to do with before the time when they could actually do constant speed props. Constant speed props have been around a long time. I think the Ivo prop had a ground adjustable mechanism to it. It's something I wanted to take ours apart and take a look at it. I remember adjusting one way upon a time. So here's my example of a ground adjustable propeller on a Stearman, Boeing Stearman. And there we go. Oops. I think this is just my opening slide, but hey, we're there. And it's a good ground adjustable. It's a ground adjustable. It's the one you guys are using in lab. You'll notice what this one has is a stripe on it. And that stripe is?
So that you know when it's broken away.
When it's slipped. There are 2 indicators that will tell you when it's slipped. One is that these stripes no longer line up. The blade will move and take with it this part of the stripe, and the hub will stay put. And that. The other indicator is
Severe vibration.
it was severe vibration. It will shake like a dog passing a peach pit, as they say.
Oh, that's quite normal. So.
We should ask Dulce. She's knows animals probably. Is that? Have you ever experienced this with a dog in the peach pit thing? No. Okay. Is there any other analogy I could use that would be?
I don't know anybody who often passes peach pits.
What?
I said I just don't know anybody who often passes peach pits.
We only have to do it once or twice. All right. This is just a close up of
Stop your dog and go do it.
the same thing. That's right. So we have a two-piece hub design. I got a picture. Two-piece hub. No, we don't. Two-piece hub design. So there's a front half, which you can see, a seam across the top, seam across the bottom, and a back half. And of course, that's how you clamp them together. We've got the blade clamps, one there, and this locking hub here also torques down and locks this onto the shaft. This hub is very similar in thought to this one. Not in the blade attachment, of course, because you have to attach the blades to it, but in the way that the hub works up here. So this is a tool and securing mechanism. So it will tighten up and clamp this onto the crankshaft. You put a pin through here to lock it in place. That's a safety mechanism. There's obviously the crankshaft has a hole in it too, so pin goes through like that. When you want to remove this, you pull the little pin out and you unscrew this. It will get tight and then you keep going. Sometimes on these taper shafts, it'll get so tight that you'll start pulling that ring right out of here. There's been times I've had to wedge things in there to make the ring actually lock in and get solid. Put like a crap ton of pressure on this and just leave it overnight. Come in the next morning and hope. I mean, you hope that it got loose. The tendency with pullers is to hit it right here, but then you're hitting the crankshaft onto the thrust bearings and, well, the slinger ring. It's just not a good idea. Or just do it lightly. All right, the design of this thing. The design has a two-piece hub design. It has those clamp rings on it. It will use wood or aluminum for clamp rings. Clamp rings, let me see. For wood or aluminum blades. Or it may have the bolted style. For steel blades. And this particular ground adjustable propeller, it's really one of the only props that I'm aware of that has steel blades on it. Sorry, I had notes to myself. I didn't read those. Let's see. The blades are either, as I just said, they are, you can take a wood blade, steel, or aluminum. Oh, they have a root with the shoulder all machined in it. I don't need to write all that down. Let me see, installation. We'll cut out some of this. We already talked about all this. So there we go. We talked about that. The blades are obviously going to have like a nub on them that fits inside. And you guys have seen them out in the shop. Take a look. It's just, we have a blade with no hub. It has a mechanism that fit down inside of here to take the centrifugal force of the blade coming out. And then the clamp holds it down so the blade doesn't twist. But when setting these things, you must use a universal propeller protractor. Now, part of me thinks that why this is just going to be obsolete very soon because we have all this digital stuff. This particular tool, I just looked up the price the other day. It is a little over $1,800 for this little thing.
How much does the digital one cost?
Oh, Harbor Freight, $5, I guess. Oh, actually, I looked up a digital protractor on Aircraft Spruce. It was like 110.
Of course, there's apps available on your phone.
Or you could just use the app, the free app on your phone. But let's talk FAA wise, though. Here's the problem. It's got to be calibrated because you are using a specific number to get a specific angle. Now, one could argue if you had a blade and you just want to decrease it by a little bit, and you don't know what the little bit is, but you're thinking about a degree, you could use something like this, and it's about a degree. I don't know. I wouldn't want to get into an argument with the FAA. But here's what you need to know, regardless of whether you are using a universal propeller protractor or a digital protractor. Oops. Is that they are actually easy to use and they're easy to screw up. I did not bring one in with me today, but I suggest that you check one out, take some time and look at it. The key to doing this, rather the digital or the analog, we'll call it, is you must find a zero reference angle. And that is critical. Let's see. 3, I had 4. Talking about I'll just go back and put my notes. Talking about the ground adjustable installation. It may fit all the crankshafts, which was kind of a waste of time. So let's see, universal prop protractor. You must have a zero reference to start out the whole thing. If you don't have a zero reference, then you are screwing up. There's no other way to say that. Okay, and here's why. Aircraft don't sit perfectly level. And what we would consider perfectly level in this instance is exactly where this crankshaft sits perfectly level, and the crankshaft flange is perfectly 90 degrees and it's perfectly horizontal. Do you follow me so far? Anytime you add even a small degree of angle, it is going to throw the blades off. They're going to twist. Just like I showed you the other day with this. I could get a lighter prop to carry around.
Oh my goodness.
I think I saw one in the hallway.
Jim, you're right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but I think, did you put it in the way?
Go get that
Go
little
steal
prop.
Daniels.
Go get the little prop.
I put it in Larry's office.
No, it's on the floor. Did you put it inside?
I put it inside the
Come on, man.
Grab that.
Oh,
No, hang on.
oh, go break into Larry's office.
Okay. So even though this is a fixed pitch prop, you'll get the idea. If this thing is sitting absolutely perfectly zero reference angle right here, everything is perfectly horizontal, perfectly level, perfectly vertical, then if I measure this blade angle right here, and I measure this blade angle right here, they will be the same. But if I have any sort of twist whatsoever, this one over here has a tremendous amount of blade angle, and this one over here has none. But you know that's not true. They both have the same blade angle. So you have to set your universal protractor and zero it out so that it reads 0 when it's on the crankshaft. Either, well, if you have a spline shaft, I'd put it on top of that spline shaft. If you have a flanged, then you can put the vertical side against the flange. You follow me? Everybody's good with that? Yeah. I mean, seriously, because if you're not, you got to say something, because you're going to be going out to the shop in like a day or two. Hopefully you'll be doing this. And that's not the time we kind of want to go, yeah, I really didn't listen to you because I didn't think it was important. Is this on the test?
Can you point to the vertical part of the flange?
Yeah.
Like I think a picture would help because me and Mauricio were actually doing this today on the and we use like the front of the hub, and on the hub itself there's a flat part of it, so we have like the digital gauge, so we had to like put it on there, and that's where we use our reference from.
Okay.
But like, is there a picture you can show us like where to put it? Because like I can't, even when you say like put it on the spline part,
You have to take the prop off.
You have to take the prop off.
You have to take the prop
So
off.
Take the prop off, then put it on the
Yes,
spline
you
shaft.
can't see the spline shaft because the prop's covering it.
Yeah. that's
So you
what I'm
take
saying.
off the prop. Now you've got the crankshaft there, and it's sitting at an angle like this, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to put your protractor on there and zero it all out.
Gotcha.
Then you're going to set the protractor aside and put the prop back on. And then somebody's going to come along and touch your protractor. Like, now I have to take the whole prop off and do it again. So take the prop off. You find your zero reference angle. Then you find something else on that engine that matches it. And there's usually something, the backbone of the engine, sometimes a spot on the cylinder. Look around and find it. That way, if your protractor gets messed up, you just go back to that spot. And you say, this spot matched the crankshaft. Follow me on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you got to take the crankshaft off. Got to find that zero reference angle. Yeah, depending, like, it might work perfect to use these bolts right here, the way they're kind of sitting. You know, you can go across that. So you'd use this surface over here, or you can use the flat surface on top of the shaft. So you follow, it's 90 degrees. So if this is up against something, it still works. Now, the way this works is you have a couple locks around here, 4 locks. So this lock right here, and you're just going to have to experiment it with it, but hopefully you'll remember at least most of this. This little lock right here, that one, is the ring lock. It locks the 2 zeros in place. So the way you do it is you rotate it until the 2 zeros are kind of close, put this pin in, it finds a hole, locks it in, now the zeros are locked. All right, and then you loosen up this one right here. That is the outer ring lock. Let's see. So you could draw a little picture of this if you wanted. Outer ring lock. That one's the zero lock. Locks the 2 zeros together. All right, so we're going to loosen that up. And yeah, this one is the outer ring. Outer ring turny thing, and this is the inner ring turny thing. Yeah, not to get all, sorry to get all technical on you guys like that. With nothing. All right, so I'm going to lock in the 2 zeros. I got to find a zero reference angle. Lock in the 2 zeros. Loosen the ring lock here. So now both discs are locked together and they rotate inside of that gold housing. Follow? And so I'm going to set the protractor down and I'm going to turn the outer ring turny thingy, or just do it manually until the bubble centers perfectly. Then I'm going to go down here and lock that right here. And that's going to lock this outer ring in place with the 0, and the 0 means it's perfectly level. Follow? Mm-hmm. Then once the 0 and the 0 and the perfectly level is perfectly set with wherever your 0 reference is, then you are done with 0 reference. And you're ready to get to work. So with this thing locked down, because we don't ever want to unlock that because it'll move the outer ring and screw up everything, we will take the 0 lock out of place. And now the inner ring, using this little guy right here, will spin nice and free with this right here rotating. So if the 10 was under the 0, how many degrees would we have?
10 degrees.
That's so tricky. Follow? Maybe right now you're going, that was a lot. All right, just, it's in the book. You can watch this video. I think I even have a video somewhere where I actually did this. Yeah, oh yeah, okay, so now down here, this is just folded away. It slides out like that, rotates out. That's so that you're level this way. You have to be level in both planes. All right, let's see. You have to do the 0 reference angle. I told you I'd do that. Let's see. Skipping all that. Now I will tell you, this is the fun part for me. So I have my universal protractor. We'll say this is the side right here that's got all the bubbles and stuff. So I set it on the engine and I get a 0 reference. Right? And then I'm going to go check the propeller. So I walk over to here and I put it like that. I zero it out and I go, that's about 20 degrees. And then I walk over here and if I turn it, you have screwed up big time. If you do a 0 reference this way, where this is the bubble side, everything has to be done this way. If not, what you're doing is you're saying, this is 0, and so when you bring it down here and measure it, it makes sense. But when you go, if you keep it and turn it around, like, I don't know, it's off by so much. I'll just walk by a prop and go, oh my gosh. Because one blade will be like at its proper angle, and the other one will be like sitting like that. Like, we're ready for you to check us. I'm like, oh, am I now?
Combining the best of both worlds.
Okay, and the other fun part is when you do it correctly, I'll actually check your 0 reference angle, then I'll do it this way, then I'll walk around and I'll screw it up and go, just for fun, oh, you're way off, and then you get to go, nah, it's because you turned around.
Remember that.
Remember that. Okay, so universal prop protractor, all right.
We did do it for ourselves.
Some helpful hints on this.
Yes.
When you are adjusting these blade clamps, when you loosen them, technically speaking, the blades are going to droop a little bit. And when you pick it back up, it's going to change angle. You also have to make sure that this propeller is perfectly level this way. Because if your propeller is sitting like this, your blade angles are not going to, you're just measuring something different. It changes. So propeller has to be perfectly level. So we put a level up here or across the bolts. And yeah, when you loosen the blade clamps on these, they droop. And so then you'll get it perfect, then tighten them up, and then it changes the blade angle. So you have to be aware that it's going to do that. So you don't want to loosen the clamps up a lot, just enough where you can turn them, and then be prepared to readjust afterwards. So we are looking for a specific tolerance. Let's say adjustments. Adjustments, let me see. Tolerance. Tolerance is 0.1 degrees difference. Between blades. And it should be 0.1 degrees from target. So in other words, if I wanted exactly 20 degrees, then it could be as much as 20.1 and as little as 19.9. So if that was my target, yeah, plus or minus 0.1. If for some reason you were, oh, and then of course, what is that stripe that goes right here? What is that? Slip strip? Yep. Slip indicator.
So does that mean after you get it all dialed in, you put this mark
Some
on?
tape on there, yeah.
Okay.
So what would you do if, you tape? Oops. You're doing a pre-flight inspection, and it looks a little like that. Yeah, call a mechanic. Don't fly that thing. Unless the other one's off by the same amount, then I guess you're okay. I don't know.
Good to go. Take that piece of tape.
Yeah, you take the tape off and redo. It means your blades maybe your clamps aren't that tight. You might find this hard to believe, but I've seen people who can't torque a bolt. They either think that the bolt side, the wrench size is the bolt side, and over torque the crap out of it till it's stretched and is failing, and the blade's slipping in there, or they just never torqued it to begin with because they got busy and had something better to do, and their phone rang, and I don't know, got their TikTok thing going. So anyway,
Is there a slip strip for both sides or just one?
you only need one indicator to indicate that the blade slipped. Oh yes, over here.
You got
Yes.
one on
Yes, yes. You got.
Yes. Yes, Kevin.
Typically, we only care if the right side slips.
If
And since this is rotate, this will always be eventually on the right side. So you only need to do one side. 'Cause it's
I mean, we'll find out pretty quick.
yes, it's imperative that you inspect both blades for slippage.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there's just one.
No, I was trying to save ink. You know, it's not free.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Ask the obvious question, you know?
inspection and maintenance. What would you do if you were asked to inspect the ground adjustable prop?
Inspect for cracks.
Yes. Where would you look for cracks?
Everywhere.
Everywhere is exactly the correct answer. So what else are we looking for? Nicks, chips, scratches,
Dents.
dents. There's some definite, when these are hollow blades, there is some definite data out there about messing with these blades. They're easily rejectable. So be very careful with that. How about,
Is that the steel blades? That
yeah,
are falling?
yeah. How about security?
Yeah.
So what does security look like?
Check for torque.
Torque? Well, how you can check for torque?
Torque checker. Get a torque wrench out and.
Yeah, normally we don't just as a matter of principle walk around the torque wrench just checking nuts and bolts. So
You wouldn't put torque stripe on those because it'll just split it out or something?
the paint.
On the bolts? Torque stripe?
Oh, you can put on the bolts.
Put it on
It
there.
dries. Yeah. You want to make sure that the safety mechanism's in place for the main thrust nut up here. I would want to do that. Make sure that that stripe is good here and in line, and there is one. If there's not one, I would want to get one on there, but I wouldn't just stripe it. I would check the blade angle, make sure it's within specs, do the engine run up, make sure it's within the proper static RPM range. Make sure that there's a cotter pin in these bolts, these nuts right here that belong. So, yeah, your typical stuff. Make sure when you put these on the shaft, it's usually a taper shaft, something like this. Then what are you going to put on the shaft first?
Blue.
Some.
Some blue.
You would put the cone on first. You are correct. Somewhat. Some blue, Prussian blue.
Prussian blue.
How about some anti-seize? So when we're all done, anti-seize. So this is going to have cones on it. Cone's got to have, cone's got a cone. So
70% cover.
yeah, but remember this isn't a taper shaft. There are cones, but the cones have to have contact.
But you said this isn't?
This is not a taper. This would be a spline shaft on something this size. Oh, all right, that's your typical stuff. What if we have vibration? Pilot comes in, says, and I'm not writing a whole lot of stuff because I got so much extraneous stuff. So you guys are going to have to kind of get a little bit used to this week to write your own stuff. What do we have a lot of vibration? Pilot comes in, man, this thing is really starting to vibrate on me.
Check blade angle.
Check your blade angles. Check that tape on there. Make sure it's right. Always ask further questions. Has it always shake like this? No, it hasn't. When did it start? Oh, when my buddy Fred tried to adjust the blades or ran it into the hanger.
Ran it into the hanger.
These blades are tall, and so is I don't know, that hub is going to be on this airplane about here. Oh, that's a very, very tall aircraft. Anybody know what that is right there? Is your gee whiz question of the day. Well, that's why I asked. Right there. It's bulge down. He's right. It's a mirror so the pilots can see each other. Just hit one behind the other. Well, it's not fair. You were there.
It's
So.
not fair, you were there.
That's a compliment.
I waited
We're the
for
same
that.
age, so yeah, come on, man.
Kevin,
Yes.
obviously it doesn't have a cowling around the cylinders. That doesn't affect the cooling.
Well, these are right up in the airstream, so they cool real well.
They getting all the cooling.
What you're talking about is a speed ring. So on newer planes, they put a speed ring around it. I don't know if that actually increased the speed, if that's where the name comes from, but speed ring. So. All right, adjustable propellers, vibration, dissimilar blade angles. What else? Balance. Balance is correct. Out of balance. Why did it get out of balance? Has it always done this? No. It just started the other day. Well, what have you done? Nothing. You haven't done anything. Well, the props awfully look awful nice. You didn't paint them, did you? Well, I did that. That's usually how this kind of conversation goes. So you painted them. Yes. Do you have any problems painting it? Oh my gosh, that one side, I just got so many runs in it. I had to sand it and like reshoot the left side like 20 different times. Okay, well, maybe you got a little extra paint on that side. What else?
Blade tracking?
Yeah, very good. Could be out of tracking, which speaks to kind of the blade angle and imbalance and thrust. What about in the hub area?
The hub's not joined together, or there's
Grease?
separation.
Probably wouldn't happen. The blades will start coming out, I think. But yeah, and this isn't a greased. This isn't a greased hub. I was thinking about your cones in there. But if your cones weren't bottomed correctly, and it was tightened down, and now the cones have worked loose, and the whole thing is just wiggly. So yeah, make sure it's locked down there. All right, so that's what I've got for the ground adjustable propeller here. Ground adjustable. I want to say, and I gotta remember to do this because we do have a Ivo prop out there. I believe the Ivo prop just has one nut in the front, and when you crank it, it does something to kind of twist the blades a little bit. But I gotta look at that one. So, all right, we got that. Talked about this. Talked about that. We'll move right along. All right, so the next prop I want to talk about somewhat briefly, so you're aware of it, is the compers. I thought it was with an M. My notes here have a not. Koppers Aromatic. Propeller. That's a very specific one. I don't really know of any others like this. This is considered an automatic pitch change prop. By automatic, I mean that it will change its blade angle all on its own, regardless of what you as the pilot or mechanic wish it to do. And if I haven't already whined about this, we had one, but somebody decided they wanted it more than I did, so they took it. And I don't think it was a student or anybody who currently works here. So, just to be clear. So, this particular propeller, yeah, I'll just say this. If you got the fact that this propeller changes pitch all on its own without any input from the pilot, you've got what I needed you to get out of this. You cannot control the pitch change of this at all as the pilot. I mean, sure, you can do things that'll affect it, and you know you're affecting it, like add throttle or put the nose down or pull the nose up, but that's not what I'm talking about. This is purely automatic. No adjustments can be made on the ground once it's properly set up. So it will be set up on the ground. Every propeller is set up on the ground. Every adjustable prop to be a certain thing. There's internal stops and such, which this would have too. But once it's set up for the airplane configuration, it's not much you're supposed to do to it outside of regular maintenance. Let me see. Oh yeah.
Bolt-on, self-contained.
Completely bolt-on, completely self-contained item
You
that
can adjust the stops at all.
you can. I don't know if you're supposed to.
Okay.
I don't have the full data on that one. Well, it can be evidenced too, but this is like an Aranca Chief, I think. It's a very old aircraft. You can see there's the vacuum pump hanging off the side. Doesn't even have a vacuum system. So it's probably got a little A65 or Continental in there with no starter. So there's no starter, nothing. It's just that's kind of how this thing was. All right, let me see. I will kind of read you my notes. And if you don't get it, that's okay, because every now and then I get it, and sometimes in this problem I'm like, I don't get it. Yeah, it takes tremendous concentration and memory of the last thing you just said to pull it all together. But the aromatic propeller automatically changes pitch in response to operational forces. I could write that. Automatic pitch change. Changes pitch. Changes pitch in response to operational forces. So what do you think that means? This places the best load on the engine for optimal performance. At high power, low airspeed, the prop should be in. Okay? High power, low airspeed. Where am I going to see high power, low airspeeds in an aircraft? Climb, which is takeoff, right?
Yeah.
Throttle's jammed all the way forward. You're climbing. You're going to be pulling back. That's low airspeed going up.
That's what kind of pitch? Low pitch?
So that would be high power, low airspeed. I'm going to want it in low pitch. Low pitch. I want it in low pitch, which will give me high PITC pitch. All right, so high power, low airspeed. That's going to be a climb. Climb. There, so at high airspeed, with moderate power, where am I going to be? Cruise. Then what angle will the prop, should it be in? Say again? High pitch. Which is technically high blade angle. See, we're already off on our pitch tangents here. So high pitch. All right, pilot has no control or input. What does the control knob for this propeller look like inside the cockpit? There isn't one. All right. You get it.
Almost.
Wait for somebody to say, blue, it's blue, I know it. They still make these. If you go to the Copper's aromatic propeller website, they will say that they're no longer used for certified aircraft, at least last time I looked. And because of advances in constant speed and everything else, they're not used, but I would argue that they're still pretty cool for a very old airplane that would not take a constant speed.
Is there a reason they're not used for, I guess, aircraft anymore? Because you have no input?
No, they're still used for aircraft, just not certified. And I think it has something to do. You're looking it up back there, aren't you, David? You looking it up? Or are you just on?
He's your Google.
You're just on TikTok? Okay.
Watching.
I think they lost their type certificate to go on certificated aircraft. It's a complicated thing. Doesn't mean they did something bad. It just sometimes if businesses are sold, some things don't transfer, and I'm not sure totally. All right, so theory of operation. Let's see. Uses natural forces acting on the blades and counterweights to achieve proper blade angles. So it's going to use what now?
Counterweights.
Natural force. Well, if we look at it, we can see a counterweight hanging right there. Another counterweight right there. Without counterweights, centrifugal twisting force will make a blade do what? Go flat. With counterweights, it makes it go towards feather. So they're going to reverse the centrifugal twisting force on this. So the more centrifugal twisting force, the higher the blade angle. You can just see by that. happening. All right.
You,
Um,
you say flat, you mean feather, right?
Towards feather. Yep. Anytime you see counterweights like that, it's going to help it go towards feather, centrifugal. Take something else to flatten it out, generally speaking. Let's see. Yeah, this is easier. The center line of the prop is actually behind the center line of the hub, which is kind of like that. It's twisted, and it's kind of just this weird thing. There it is. So, like I said, you don't have to understand this part. Center line of the prop is behind the center line of the hub. This angle remains constant throughout the blade movement. Blade moves forward of hub plane rotate. Blade moves forward of the hub plane at rotations of low speeds, but the blade moves behind the hub plane at high. No, that didn't make sense. An increase in RPM increases the centrifugal twisting moment, which tends to flatten the blades, but the increased lift caused by the increased RPM will cause the blade to move. I'm not going to do all that because it's like 3 pages to get through it, how complicated it is. I will just say that it is a complicated little thing, and I don't want to like ruin your evening by I don't get it. So, but anyway, it's referencing this plane of rotation, how it moves back and forth. If you kind of see one and you can move it, it really helps a lot. Better much, Kevin? All right. So if I said which, yeah. There you go. Does have a wrong way. Does have a synchronizer in there to make sure both blades do the same thing. That's what that was about. So, all right, if you want to know more about it, we can get into that. But, all right, those blades are wood. The hub is metal. Synchronizer, let me see, counterweights. All right. Of course, maintenance, we'd say the same thing. We're looking for inspection. We're looking for cracks, chips, wear. It's a prop.
Everywhere.
Tracking.
Waiting.
How much can it be off?
0.1 degree.
Safety mechanisms.
An eighth, because it was wood. Very good. The blades in this particular one move freely by hand. You just walk up to them, you can just twist it real easy.
Static RPM.
And they should feel the same. Whenever you're working on any sort of propeller that does now start moving, you're not going to see it so much with the ground adjustable because it's really supposed to be clamped in hard. But you can try it. You walk up and try and wiggle the prop back and forth and up and down. It's going to do this, yes, I know. But the blade and the hub should not have ground adjustables. They don't have any movement. But as soon as you start getting into these other props, you're going to find a little bit of movement in it. I don't know. This one is a fresh overhaul. It's not mounted to anything, so it's really hard. But I do that. So pre-flight on my plane, I'll go back and forth with the hub and up and down. I want to see how much movement is in there and keep track of that because it starts to get increases, and then that's a bad thing. So you're always going to look for.
You weren't supposed to do that kind of stuff to your prop, though.
Oh, you're not. It's like pushing it, pulling the airplane. It doesn't take much to move it. It's
Oh, okay.
yeah, a couple pounds of force either which way. You'll feel it moving. You always want to check that on these props. So same with the other one. You're going to want to make sure that the blades are tight in the hub and they're not coming out. Now you walk up to a blade on any sort of movable thing and you're moving it like an inch back and forth. Okay, you got to stop. That's bad. You got some problems going on there. So, all right. Next prop. I like this prop better. Oops, I guess there was more I could have said about the other one. When we get into, these types of propellers that are moving now, movement requires lubrication. And this particular propeller contains an oil supply that must be checked every 100 hours and annually. So it means there's a little dipstick in there. There's not. But there'll be a plug. And so you always want to look for oil leaks around the hub. That's very bad. So if you have oil leaks, you want to take care of that. So you have leaky seals and stuff to look for.
Did you ever want to check, like, bearings? There's a lot of them.
That's what I'm talking about. With the movement of the blades, you're actually checking the bearings.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's move into controllable pitch props. Right after a message from our sponsors.